Hey everybody, this is Barbara coming at you now from my home in Kamakitayama-mura. That's Kamakitayama village in the most rural part I can think of Nara Prefecture in Japan. So I have been here, this is my second day. This is my second day here in my town, and my first Friday in here in Japan. It's just been a really long week. But I have written down here some stories, basically. Some little, stories. If I repeat myself or if I have a hard time thinking of words, it's because it's been a really long day. I did pretty much, everything today. It was kind of crazy. So I'm going to pick up, though, with a story that actually happened in Tokyo when I was walking around Shibuya. So a lot of people might know that when you walk around Tokyo, people will hand you packages of tissues. And usually there'll be a little paper in there too advertising something. That's why they actually give them out. And they're useful, not just as tissues, but also because apparently a lot of times public bathrooms in Japan, especially in the city, might not have toilet paper. So you have it. So I was with my friend Stephanie, and we walked by one woman, and she was giving everybody tissues. And Stephanie got a packet. She was like, "Oh, my first packet of tissues." I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll get one later." So we went off, and we did something, and on our way back to the hotel, I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna ask this guy for tissues." And so there's this guy kind of resting on, I don't even know what. He was just kind of resting on his laurels, and he had a box of tissues. And as I walked by, I just sort of put my hand out. And I stood there for a second, I paused, and he said something to me, and I was expecting it to be in Japanese, so I didn't process it. But I realized that he was not giving me these tissues. So I was like, okay, and I just kind of walked away laughing, because I never thought that I'd be refused for tissues. And I looked at Stephanie and I said, "What did he say?" Apparently he said, "Japanese only." So I'm guessing whatever he was advertising, his employers probably told him, only give this to people who are going to be in the city. Don't give it to tourists. And so I didn't get one. But it was completely surprising. And it's just one of those things you just have to laugh off. If you're looking to be offended, I'm sure it would have been really offensive. But it was surprising. I mean, it makes perfect sense. It's an advertisement. You only want to give it to certain people because otherwise it's a waste of resources. And it didn't matter because I got other tissues later on. But when I got to Nara City, I understood why so many people asked for it. It was just so cool. So cool. It's not crazy and huge like Tokyo is, but it's definitely got a lot to it. It's just got a completely different vibe. And the deer there really are just fearless. They just don't care at all. The deer are just looking at you like, what? I could take you. Not bothered. And even bothered. So, that was kind of cool. And I personally think that they're a little bit cuter than American deer. They're pretty cool. I haven't tried feeding them or making them bow yet. Apparently, they will bow in order to get food. And you can bow and they will bow back. So, I want to try that. We had our little orientation or whatever there in Nara City, and then we met our supervisors, and everybody was crazy nervous because we had to do a self-introduction in Japanese in front of all of the supervisors. And even though I had talked to my supervisor via email quite a bit, I was still really nervous to meet him. So, it went fine though. It went fine. And my supervisor is awesome. He's really nice. That's the thing. I mean, people will tell you about the JET program that, your supervisor, your boss, wants to know everything that you're doing. And you have to tell them if you're going to go somewhere and who you're going to see. But it's just because they're worried about you. And you're their responsibility. It's kind of like when you're a kid and your parents want to know where you are all the time. Because they're worried. They just want to make sure you're safe. And that way, if something does happen, there's somebody who can take care of everything for you. That's really nice. Just go into ragdoll mode and just let everybody lead you by the hand because it's really overwhelming. The only trouble is, my supervisor is really nice, but he's a little too nice in that when we went to go get dinner together, for example, he's like, what do you want to eat? And I was like, anything is fine, really. And then, like, we had to negotiate, and eventually I was like, okay, let's get sushi. Let's go to the, like, rotating Maru sushi. And there's a flying ant on me. Oh, that's another topic. But, once we decided, like, we stopped at a place, and we got out of the car, and we kind of looked at it, and he's like, oh, no, let's not go here. And so we got back in the car. And I'm glad that I wasn't that hungry when we started looking for a restaurant because, I mean, it must have taken us at least an hour and a half after we got in the car to finally pick a place to eat and go inside. And it's just because he wanted to make sure that it was a place I was going to like. But he's really nice. That's the other thing, the calendar. Apparently, it is nearly impossible to find a calendar at this time of the year in Japan. You can walk into a bookstore and they have one choice. And it doesn't even have, like, this month. It starts next month. So I just didn't buy one. And luckily, at my town office, they had extra calendars laying around, so they gave me some. So it was fine, but I could not buy one anywhere. Even in the huge mall that we went to, no one had them. I mean, the bookstore had one. But there was no space to even write what you wanted. It was a really bad one. So just little things like that are surprising. For example, the price of rice. In America, rice is really cheap, right? You can get a big bag of rice for like $4. I got kind of a medium bag of rice, and it was maybe 1,700 yen. You can say roughly $17, more actually because the exchange rate right now. So basically I paid like $20 for a bag of rice. It's kind of crazy. And then I got here to the apartment, so we did that on the way back from the city. Well, on the way from the city, I had never been here. I got to the apartment, and there was just a lot of storage space. The closet is huge. I don't even know how my predecessor filled it all. She has, like, 4 different clothing racks in here. I mean, I guess she lived here for 3 years, so she kind of collected things, but all of my clothes are out, and I'm only using maybe half of the closet space. About like that. I'm not using any of the rest of it. So that's good. I mean, it's a small apartment. Don't get me wrong, it's really, really small because it's actually the teacher's dorm. You're not meant to live here full time, but I do. So yeah, at least there's a lot of storage. The problem is, there are bugs. Those flying ants. Yesterday I was, getting relaxed and laying around. I noticed 1 or 2 and was like, not a big deal. I was laying here on the bed, flicking on my computer, and they were just crawling on me. I was like, what is going on? And there's 5, 6, 10, a dozen, a couple dozen. I was like, what is this? They were attracted to my light from outside. There's just like this nice big gap between the screen window and the windowsill. So I had to get some tape and I taped it up, and then I had to kill all of the ants that were in here. I think they're flying ants. And a couple got in here tonight, but not many. Maybe 6 total, so not a problem. But I think 1 or 2 at a time more are getting in, so that should be fun. There was also, a horsefly was in here yesterday, and I didn't notice it, and then the woman who actually cleaned this place for me and helped me move in, she said, oh, that bites. I was like, okay. And I looked at it later, and it's horsefly. It's flying around, wasn't bothering me too much, but I didn't like it, so I tried to capture it in a trash can. Well, I missed. It's faster than me. Then it was mad. I swear to God, it was looking for me. So I went and I kind of hid behind my sliding door in the kitchen, and eventually it found me. It came into the kitchen. So I ran back into the room and I shut the sliding door. And I was afraid to go back in there, which is bad because I have to go through the kitchen to get to the bathroom. And eventually I went in there, and the thing was in the door jamb. It almost made it through. I barely managed to escape that horsefly. That's the kind of adventures you have, I guess, here in the middle of nowhere. That's about as exciting as it gets. And then today was just crazy. But it was just a long freaking day. I woke up at about 5:30. And that's to say, I woke up before 5:30, and at 5:30 I was like, screw it, I can't go back to sleep. And I just got out of bed. I guess that's delayed jet lag. I just had so much time. And then the day started. And I think it's important to note that although I didn't do much walking or anything like that, being constantly in and out of like extreme heat and like kind of hot, and then just like the air conditioning they turn up high in the car is really draining for some reason. And I think I started to get really dehydrated, but it came on slowly, and it was just constantly in and out and up and down and just craziness. And it finally hit me when we went to the post office to set up my bank account, which is kind of common here in Japan, but probably sounds really weird to people who don't know about the country. Yeah, I went to the post office, set up my bank account, and it was air conditioned, but not, as I said, not really cold. So I had to take off my suit jacket. I was getting hot. Just standing there, I was getting hot, and I was still just kind of warm. And it was taking a really long time. I was starting to get frustrated, and I knew I was getting dehydrated. But I felt weird excusing myself to go down the road and get something out of the vending machine because I had to be filling out paperwork. And finally the moment hit me when they had to bring me back some paperwork because I missed a character of the katakana for something. I missed an E. Simple, right? Not a big deal. Spelling mistake. I make mistakes on forms in English all the time, but I almost broke down because of that. I just looked up at a light because they say that makes you stop crying. I looked up at the light and I was like, no, I'm not doing this here. I am not going to have a breakdown in front of all of these people that I don't even know. And so I collected myself and I just pushed through and I just pretended to be happier than I was. And when we left, there were some of my students outside and I just smiled and I was just like, oh, it's nice to meet you. Oh, I'm really happy. And I came back to my room and I was fine then. Hot, but fine, and I just like I guzzled down some canned coffee that they had left for me in my room. But yeah, I almost had a really like crazy story about, I guess, culture shock. I don't know. I think it's just fatigue, really. It wasn't a shock thing. It was just I was tired and frustrated and not feeling good, and then that hit, and it was almost too much. And after that, I was just like trying to be polite, trying not to be rude, but I was just done. I was at my limit for the day, and I think everybody could sense it, even though I was trying my best. Like, it just was really obvious I was tired. But even so, I had to work out the details. Once again, my supervisor wants to know everything about what I'm doing, but it's good. I'm going out with some other jets tomorrow, so he wanted to make sure I knew where I was going, when I was going, and he's going to give me a ride there. So it's good, actually, because I was just going to be like, I don't know, I'll think about it tonight, figure something out, drive there maybe, and it would have been a hot mess. So it's good. It forces me to not procrastinate, especially when I do not know this country yet. I probably would have gotten there like 3 hours late, everybody would have been gone, been crying in the street, so I guess I'm glad for that. Well, I hope this message finds everybody well. I guess that's all until next week. Bye!